I was once young and dumb. Very, very, very dumb. Because if I'd have went past the cave with a group of my friends, we would have went in it. We would have went in it. Total disregard for safety. Like, we wouldn't have thought twice about it. And now, there's a possibility of all kind of things, from alligators to all kind of mysterious and strange things that they're finding in these caves. So, this video, they found an alien mummy in a Mexican cave, and what happened next shocked the world. So we're gonna check it out. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check it out.
Archaeologists have hailed a latest discovery in Peru. An almost perfectly well-preserved mummy, estimated to be almost 800 years old, has been discovered there.
The mummy of an inhabitant of the high Andean region. It was buried approximately between 800 or 1200 AD.
In 1911, giant bones were found in Lovelock Cave, large human skulls and skeletons that measured between 7 and 8 feet in height.
Some skeletons dug out of the earth that seemed to corroborate this. This was an affirmation of literal biblical beliefs as well.
That's amazing. She's so complete. That's the first thing. And you found this.
I was the first archaeologist to ever come into this cave, and I still recall that day, this section, and looking at this, I mean, I was dumbfounded.
Think you've seen it all? When you dig deep into the ground or take your chance at a cavern, you'll find unexplainable discoveries, mind-boggling sightings, encounters with the past, and even spirits from another realm.
Şuna bak. Nesin sen? Arkadaşlar, bu da varlıklardan biri.
That's amazing. She's so complete. That's the first thing. And you found this.
Deep within Belize's lush jungles, the Yaktun Tunichil Muknal cave holds an extraordinary relic, the Crystal Maiden. This remarkably preserved skeleton, believed to be a young woman, was discovered in the 1980s and has since captivated archaeologists and historians. The name Crystal Maiden derives from the skeleton's sparkling appearance, a crystallized look from centuries of mineral deposits. Thought to have been a sacrifice in ancient Mayan rituals, her remains offer a unique window into the past. The way she was placed suggests she was offered to the gods with great care, showing us how the Mayans connected with their spiritual beliefs through such rituals. Gem of a find. This alien-like creature was spotted by a bunch of teens who wandered into a stalagmite cave in Mexico. Weirdly enough, the section where they met the alien creature even had grass sprouting, prompting them to believe they'd entered some sort of magical realm. Or, whatever this creature was, had planted it there for its own sustenance. It seems this creature thrives pretty well in salty conditions, but might need to get out more since it clearly couldn't even detect there was an intruder in its cave. The smart teens remained hidden and captured the alien, and eventually made it out once the coast was clear. Gog and Magog. 2 years ago, a man released a video of himself exploring a cave and encountering what he believes to be Gog and Magog, allies of Satan mentioned in the Bible. Since Gog and Magog represent the start of a horrible apocalypse, the man was terrified and warned the world. Of course, not much has happened since, but that doesn't mean the duo aren't there. And even if it's not Gog and Magog, then what are these two creatures? The first one clearly has a devilish appearance and red, glowing eyes. The second managed to evade the camera, but it's masking something sinister.
It's clearly not bothering anyone. I say we turn around, we act like we don't see it, we seal the cave off, and boom. Nobody ever know. No harm, no foul. That's what I say.
Maybe there's some sort of evil spirits that lurk in the dark. A jinn's curse. A man found an abandoned tunnel just beyond a small village in Saudi Arabia and decided to investigate. He'd heard tales about a ghoulish creature coming out at night to take people's lives, but he thought these were only tales, until he met this creature, which, although looks like a cloaked woman at first, is clearly something else. The man was naturally a little spooked out because he believed it was a female jinn waiting for her even scarier spouse to return. According to local folklore, female jinns don't meddle with human affairs, but might if provoked. So whatever this man was thinking was certainly placing him in harm's way. Luckily, he abandoned ship before things got worse. Peruvian mummy. In 2021, archaeologists discovered a mummy in a cave in Peru. One that was going through an incredibly rough time when it passed away.
I ain't gonna lie. Seeing that, rolling up on that, discovering that would have messed me up for a minute, man. I'd have had to get myself together. Because my mind automatically starts trying to formulate the scene to which this happened. Like, it automatically starts doing that. And this just looks like a person that was suffering, that maybe went out suffering or something like that. Even if it wasn't, my mind would formulate the scene. And yeah, I'd have had to take a walk.
Even Peru. One that was going through an incredibly rough time when it passed away. Dating back at least 800 years, the mummy was bound in ropes as if it was forced to live out its life in the dark cave. Many believe this belongs to a woman who was sentenced to some sort of punishment. A few think she was meant to be a sacrifice, but ended up passing away long before that.
The mummy of an inhabitant of the high Andean region. It was buried approximately between 800 or 1200 AD.
The mummy is still being tested, so we've yet to find out more. But I think from what we've learned so far, it's more than enough to know. Wishful thinking. Somewhere in Saudi Arabia, in a cave hidden from the world, a couple of brave men set out to seek ghostly spirits. Little did these amateur ghost hunters know they would encounter this ghoulish creature with a humanoid upper body and a mysteriously wispy lower body, so thin it doesn't even show on camera. The creature was clearly caught off guard, otherwise it probably would have picked another corner to hide in. The ghost hunters believe this is an evil jinn, capable of transforming into humans and animals. This one might have been caught mid-transition, so we may never know what it really looks like. Jinn on the loose. If you take apart a few loose rocks at a deep cave and see this, it's time to run screaming for the hills. This ghastly creature was discovered by a bunch of Arab ghost hunters who started reciting verses the minute they saw it because they believed it could be a jinn. Since most jinns are invisible and usually take the form of a human or animal, the ghost hunters believe this is what the jinn really looks like, and it's clearly hiding some devilish intentions. Spookeasy. This is not what you want to see when you're in the deepest sections of the earth, hoping to find a way out. A couple of men were led down a literal dark path as they kept following a cave's opening, and eventually descended a couple of 100 meters into the ground. This alien creature was casually resting what looks like an old well, but since the men were equipped with just a small flashlight, we can't see that well. If coming across this wasn't creepy enough, just hear the weird whirring noises this creature's making. Yup, that's straight up nightmare fuel. Hellbound.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahu Ekber.
It seems evil demonic spirits really have a thing for the underground systems in Saudi Arabia, as this one made its appearance suddenly in front of a man who was hoping to explore an abandoned tunnel. Now, I know this could just be some other person wearing a suit, but if you look at this crevice, it seems a bit too narrow for most people. In fact, I'd even say it looks like just half the creature is able to squeeze through. If it really is some sort of eerie being, it might mean this one's capable of going through walls. But we're going off topic here. I just can't believe the man was brave enough to stay and film.
Şuna bak. Nesin sen? Arkadaşlar bu da varlıklardan biri.
Fire Shadow. In 2021, a Turkish YouTuber decided to explore a local cave that had been dubbed as one of the most haunted ones in the area. At first, he was met by nothing but pitch black darkness. He almost gave up the search until he heard a low, rumbling sound coming from the end of a canal. There, something bright suddenly glowed, like a fire lit. So naturally, he inched closer. He'd thought the fire was lit by some sort of squatter, but there wasn't any.
That's what that means? Like, I was so flustered I couldn't even hit the button to stop the video. So you inched closer? That's what that meant to you? Remind me that I don't want to hang around anybody who goes closer to something like that, because you're going to get us both messed up. Ain't no way. Fool went closer to it.
Anybody there. And to his surprise, from the fumes and smoke, out crawled a ghostly figure, almost as if it was being born out of the fire. This terrified the man so much, he quickly retreated.
I'd have been like, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Don't you know lighting this fire in this enclosed space, it's not good. It's hazardous for both of our health. You know what I mean? You mind putting that out? I'd have been that person.
Cursed statue. You shouldn't go around digging up the past, especially if it unearths something like this. This weird skeleton was discovered when one cave explorer decided to dig around loose sand near the opening of a cave in Russia. Initially pulling out some smaller, mysterious bones, the explorer finally pulled out this skeleton, which he believes belongs to an ancient generation of aliens that once inhabited the Earth. A few experts argued that instead of a tiny body, this could be an ancient sculpture. But whatever that skeletal figure is, it stumped quite a few people and is still undergoing tests. Demonic spirit. You might want to grab the prayer beads for this one. A man found this ghoul-like creature in an abandoned cavern, and although it could have passed off as a woman clad in a black shroud, focus on its face. That doesn't look like makeup or a mask. The man believes this is a female djinn who's rightfully angry at being caught out. The djinn didn't even move a muscle, so the brave man tried to inch closer, but the djinn started rocking sideways as if it was hoping to hurt the man. Thankfully, the youngster took this as a cue to leave. But boy, I would have been terrified. Cave hybrid. This man and his friend went looking for trouble and found this ghoulish creature hiding between the rocks in an abandoned tunnel. The duo was sure this was some evil spirit or a creepy hybrid because it had a humanoid body but claws instead of arms and was much shorter than imaginable.
I don't know why I'm sitting here wishing for the thing to get him. I really am. I've seen this clip before, so I know he's going to be all right, but I was still rooting for him to get got. You throwing stuff on this thing, you antagonize it, it's not bothering you. Like, in those situations, I'd be like, you know what, go on and get him. Go on and get him. You know, he put himself out there. Go on and get him.
One of the men even threw what I think is salt. Maybe they were hoping this cheap trick would deter whatever this thing is, but it seemed to be softly imploring them to pray for it and leave. When the video went viral, many believed this was a cursed human, forced to live like a hybrid creature for the rest of its life. Well, that's a dark end. Alien mummy. A bunch of cave raiders ended up going down a winding path until they finally entered a clearing, where, atop a flat rock, lay this alien creature. Initially believing they were being pranked, the group came closer only to realize the creature was very much real, and to their horror, very much alive. It seemed like the alien had snuck into the cave after its UFO crashed and was still recovering when it was unexpectedly found by the raiders. But the alien didn't look like it had enough energy left. It couldn't muster up the strength to get up and confront the individuals, who remain anonymous to this day and refuse to reveal the cave's whereabouts. Chinese myth. If you didn't believe in dragons, it's time you changed that. This dragon body was discovered from a cave in Mexico. And yeah, that's too close to home for comfort. As locals eagerly observed it from up close, a few crazy theories spun out. Some believe the dragon was just a movie prop, but there haven't been any releases that would justify this particular creature. By the looks of it, the dragon had passed away just a few hours before, which would explain how it was finally discovered. The dragon was later scooped up by the authorities and never heard of again. So we can be pretty sure there's something fishy going on around there. Scroll. After hearing a bunch of rumors about a creepy cryptid living in a cave in Japan, a bunch of amateur reporters headed there to investigate. They thought they'd bust a bunch of kids playing dress-up, but ended up recording a thin, skeletal figure coming out from the cave's opening. Terrified, a few of them ran, while most of them left their equipment behind, which recorded the entire ordeal. A few have since pointed out how remarkably similar this skeletal figure is to a Skrull, an alien shapeshifter from the Marvel Universe. Most believe these kinds of cryptids have always roamed the Earth, so the comics were somewhat inspired by them. But who knows what happened to this one? Reptilian nightmare. This is why, if you're ever curious about deep, dark places, you should just let it go. These cavers decided to explore a deep tunnel in Mexico and found this spooky creature slowly emerging from the darkness. At first, they thought it was just a salamander, until it got closer, and they realized it looked more like a mythical being, almost like a dragon. Here's another angle. Clearly, this dragon isn't that happy about being spotted, so it chased the men out, who were too eager to get out of there too. But the bigger question is, why aren't we making a big deal about it? If only we could find out that cave's location. The ultimate yogi. This is what happens when you disconnect from the world and enter the spiritual realm. This yoga master surprised a couple of spelunkers who went out to explore a cave in Indonesia. The yoga master, or yogi, was clearly deep in meditation and didn't even budge when met by the spelunkers. Weirdly enough, there were other yoga students there too, although they seemed to be praising the yogi and almost worshipping him. The spelunkers believe the yogi reached a level of spiritual awakening most can't, which is why the others are eager to surround him and chant phrases. Glowing creature.
Ela apareceu aqui, velho. Tem alguma coisa aqui. Oh. É o canto. É o canto. É o canto dela.
This group of youngsters decided to explore one of the most haunted caves in Japan. The cave had been collecting a pool of water dripping from above, so it wasn't that easy to see around. But just as they reached the core, something bright blue glowed from the ground. It seemed like some sort of spirit was trying to exit the waves, but was hesitant because of the youngsters, who were somehow remarkably calm despite this encounter. This is because they believed the spirit belonged to a woman who'd gotten lost decades ago, so they weren't sure she didn't mean any harm. But it seemed
See the way that thing rose up out the water like that? They must have been out there playing with a Ouija board. Like, what else would cause something to rise out the water like that? If it's real. Like, no. Yeah, I must have been out there playing. Yeah, it had to be.
She wasn't in the mood for company, so they quickly left. Dragon eggs. Who says dragons aren't real? Maybe they've always lived close by, but we haven't really seen them because they prefer to live in deep caves. And here's proof. A bunch of explorers found dragon eggs in a deep crevice. And what's worse, some of these eggs were cracked. So whatever reptilian nightmare was birthed from them is probably with them right this moment. Of course, the dark helps them in unimaginable ways. But I bet once they finally realize they were breathing the same air as some fire-hurling creature, they won't be exploring caves for long. Cryptid crawler.
And it's not gonna go how y'all think it's gonna go. You know how in the movies, when something is hatching, they say like the first thing it sees it's gonna take to, it's gonna protect them, grow up, love them. No, it's gonna see you and eat you right out the gate.
A news crew was reporting about an important mining reserve in Turkey when they picked up some sort of movement, and what looks like deep, low, growling noises just with it. Spooked out of their minds, they redirected the camera toward the sound, but couldn't really spot anything at that time. until they returned to the studio and watched the video and realized they weren't in the cave alone. Just as the camera pans to the interior of the cave, you can see something ghostly quickly dart past their eyes. At first, the crew tried to play it off as a camera glitch, but that doesn't really explain the sound. It's obvious there's something sinister going on around there. Sewer spook. A homeowner kept on hearing weird noises from a nearby sewer grate, so he snuck in a camera and captured the light silhouette of some sort of creature. Not being able to see clearly, the man decided to approach the area later and captured this. Now, that certainly can't be a teen pranking us. If it were a human wearing a suit, the stature is way too uncomfortable to be human, which makes me think this might just be a real-life creature. Of what kind? That's a bigger mystery. The monstrous entity kept looking around as if it was searching for something, but when it sensed the man, it disappeared, never to be found again. El Chupacabra. This terrifying cryptid was staring back at a couple of kids who wanted to explore a cave, but decided not to after glimpsing this. Initially, everyone assumed it was just a wild dog that had settled in, but someone piped in that this creature didn't look anything like that. The more the video went around, the more came rumors about it being some sort of hybrid wolfish creature. But eventually, people started calling it a chupacabra. Since this did happen in Mexico, and the animal didn't really resemble any other. Well, whatever it is, it's a good thing nobody went inside the cave. Cyclopia wolves. Most of us believe cyclops aren't real. But what if they were, and were simply petrified? A man in Indonesia discovered a stone structure along a small cave, with an impressively carved face and a bright eye right in the middle. Now, I know it looks like a sculptor's work, but where it was, it would have remained hidden for a long time if it weren't for an eager explorer, so I don't think that's plausible. Locals believe this is truly a cyclops that once walked the earth, and with the way it was found fused to the cave, they think it was cursed by a supernatural entity to spend all eternity in stone. Well, that's an awful tragedy. Gates of Hell. When you go around digging up Mother Nature, she's bound to give you something nightmarish, like these weird howling sounds. The Chinese miners that were exploring African diamond and gold reserves didn't expect to meet the equivalent of satanic screams, so they all naturally bolted. But I'm left here wondering what on earth is going down there. Some believe these might be the 4 fallen angels tied up. Others believe the sounds could be coming from trapped spirits, all eager to finally get out. Since everyone quickly abandoned ship, we may never know what's truly going on. And honestly, I don't know if I want to know either. Prehistoric proof. What if dinosaurs walked the Earth up to just a few years ago? In the 1980s, some explorers claimed to have captured a dinosaur, but they were quickly laughed out. Years later, this small clip appeared showing the group clearly standing against a dinosaur, which even moved. Many believe this dinosaur may have been cooped up in a secret cave somewhere in the US, and that the years of darkness made it slow, which is why it could barely move under the sun. Some even think the dinosaur is still somewhere in our tunnels. Well, if you're ever curious about that, you can explore for yourself. Hell's Doors.
The Giant's Causeway on the north coast of Northern Ireland, where we have some incredible breaking news.
A tourist in Northern Ireland was recording the scenery around her when she accidentally caught a major section of the rock in front of her suddenly closing shut. Naturally spooked, she later went out to investigate but couldn't find any opening. Locals believe the cliff is actually a secret cave where Finn McCool lives. Now, if you didn't know...
Man, listen, bro, they'd have taken a bulldozer to that to that spot. They ain't gonna just sit outside and just knock, hoping somebody answer the door. No. They would have took a bulldozer to that joker. They'd have got in there some kind of way. They'd have dug into that mountain. I don't believe it for one bit.
According to folklore, Finn McCool was a local giant who lived 3 centuries ago, but seems to have vanished. Or did he? Giant or no giant, a doorway in the rocks is certainly suspicious. The Chamir Snake. A rock climber had climbed up a steep hill, hoping to access a rather unreachable cave, when he quickly learned why no man had succeeded before. This creepy creature started moving toward him, suddenly emerging from a narrow hole. Startled, the man tried to keep a firm grasp, but it was clear this creepy crawler wanted him gone. Since this happened close to the ancient area of Chamir, many believe this is the Chamir Snake, a dragon which burns everything in sight. So it's a good thing it let the man go back unharmed. Groot. A Russian man went missing after he told his friends he'd be exploring a cave just at the end of a local forest. Concerned, his friends went through the same path, only to find just his abandoned phone. And this video. The man's clearly running away from something, which his friends believe might be because he saw something spooky in the cave. And then he was met by this rather scary creature, which we can only assume is some sort of alien being. Since the video cut short just as the man screams, we may never know what it was, or where the man really is. Sadly, his friends believe he may have been abducted by whatever this being was.
Or he might just met a new friend. You know what I mean? They could have just became friends, talked for several hours, and now they're at a bar somewhere.
Scaled monster. A couple of archaeologists exploring a cave in Thailand unexpectedly found a weird creature slithering close by and brought it out to inspect. Hissing like a snake and eagerly moving in the water, it looked like some sort of hybrid reptile, but locals were sure this was the evil spawn of a wicked monster that lived in the cave. The creature kept slithering about, so initially experts couldn't really inspect it, but they soon figured out this wasn't just a regular snake, but one that had grown an uncanny amount of algae from its scales. Now, that's even weirder, because how would a common cave snake meet the right conditions for this kind of growth? Extraterrestrial skull. Check out this unusual skull, which was unearthed by a boy close to a cave's opening in Nepal. The cave was assumed to be a craftsman's way of pranking the locals, but here are a few intriguing details I've picked out. The carvings on the skulls clearly mean something. On the left, there's a star system, maybe Orion. And in the middle of the eyebrows, there's a third eye. This has been mentioned before in Buddha teachings, so it's possible this skull dates back several centuries. But weirdly enough, just at the bottom, see how unusually solidified it is? It's almost like it was petrified. Some locals do believe it might have belonged to a superior race, but who knows? Prowling danger. The number one rule of hearing a weird growling sound coming from a cave while you're hiking is to ignore it. Do not try to explore the cave when you're carrying a measly flashlight. But this hiker had to find out what the sound was, so he walked deep into the cavern and found 2 glowing eyes staring back at him. Now, that would have been our cue to leave, but I guess this hiker isn't really one of the smart ones, because he shone the flashlight right at the eyes of the predator. It's a good thing the mountain lion was in shock itself. Otherwise, the hiker wouldn't be coming out alive.
Ooh, dang. Y'all are built different. So much different. So different. So different right there. What is wrong with y'all, man? I be thinking y'all just trying to see how close you can get to death. Like the closest you can get. Because that was just dumb.
Agora, no.
I don't want to get completely inundated with spiders, of course.
Well, that's it. I didn't really want to go into caves before, but this agoraphobic nightmare's gonna haunt me for weeks. An eager explorer took to a cave in Arizona and found hundreds and thousands of daddy longlegs casually taking over the cavern. Most of us would have turned back, but the explorer was pretty eager to climb through, so he continued, even scooping a couple in his hands. If that wasn't icky enough, he later returned to make the trip. And yes, that's him casually laying and scooting his way over.
You're all over. They're raining down on me now. Can you see him?
As if he isn't surrounded by thousands of spiders, but tiny, adorable friends. No, thank you.
See him coming up from the walls? Oh boy.
Spelunker Fall. It's not too common to come across water in a cave, but a gushing waterfall? That's certainly one for the books. Just check this out. This is the Sharps Cave in West Virginia, and although it's been out there for a couple of decades, first-time spelunkers have no idea what they're getting into. The water comes from a couple of lobbies of rock, which create tunnels and pathways, and eventually connect to a bigger waterway at the top. Since the water just pools at the bottom, it can be pretty dangerous, especially when you haven't got any swimming or diving gear. Albeit, these cavers look quite pleased to reach there. The Ohm. If you think Chinese myths about dragons just sprouted out of nowhere, take a look at this. This weird, tiny creature was spotted by a cave explorer who found it swimming in the ravine. At first, the Shang-Chi dragon-like creature remained still for a while, but eventually slithered quickly into a tiny crevice, hoping to evade humans. It turns out this is the Ohm, an aquatic salamander which literally lives its best life. It eats, sleeps, and repeats until it's time for it to pass away. A century later. Well, who knows? Maybe the Ohm is a descendant of dragons. Mystery Bound. Imagine finding something close to a Bigfoot just casually swimming in the water while you go cave exploring. But this happened in Thailand, and forget the tourists, even the local tour guide looks confused. From a distance, I thought this was an orangutan, since they're pretty common there. But these creatures behave differently and have a more humanoid shape, if you know what I mean. So, what are these? Well, luckily, we don't really need to freak out. This was part of an art installation, so the creatures were purposefully erected, and some of them were even mascots. I don't know what would happen if you came across this site at night. Devil's Advocate. A group of men wanted to check out a storm drain that had long been closed off. At first, they didn't find much, except for an eerie darkness. But as they got closer to the core of the tunnel, the temperatures dropped and the air got chilly enough to freak almost everybody out. The person at the front of the group swore he saw something pass by, but nobody believed him, so they continued ahead, until the shadowy figure emerged and suddenly leapt after them. Not knowing what to do, the men rushed out, terrified for their lives. They refused to go back in, citing they'd seen a terrible monster. Well, what do you think? In the Depths.
I feel like screaming or something in this tunnel. I'm gonna go check it out.
I'll never understand why people want to go on exploring deep tunnels. If it were me, I'd never go in there. But this man is certainly much braver than I am, because not only did he enter the tunnel, but continued ahead even as it got darker and darker. At one point,
and we've all seen videos with alligators in these type of tunnels, culvert pipes, different things like that. We've seen them. Matter of fact, it's just a recent video. But y'all still keep going. Y'all ain't learn. Y'all ain't learn.
He began a weird rustling, as if something was lurking close by. Now, once again, I'd have just up and run from here, but he continued until something suddenly screamed at him and he rushed out. Reviewing the footage, he's sure he came across not a weird cryptid, but possibly a suspicious man. And that's even scarier, because who knows what he was planning. Looking for trouble. A Turkish man was taking a shortcut back home when he noticed an abandoned shaft, which had been boarded off to ward visitors. Curious, he approached the shaft and realized it opened up into the ground. Maybe it was once a well, or some sort of entrance into an underground tunnel system. Whatever it is, it would have been better to stay away, because the minute the man tried to shove his camera there, he saw these bright eyes. Thankfully, he took it as a cue to leave. But I wonder what it was, since even animals couldn't get past the caged entrance. Heaven on Earth. This man just casually found the way to eternal happiness. As he dug around in some loose sand in a cave, he noticed the ground glowing brighter and brighter until the entire floor lit up. The video cut off right there, so we won't be able to get a good look, but many believe he may have found heaven. Now, while we'd all like to believe this is real, some say he may have just dug up a burning gas reserve. But
all right, that would have sucked if that was like magma. And he just dug right into it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that would have sucked.
Wouldn't that blow up? I think this guy's just trying to pull our legs. But if you've got any more interesting theories, do let me know. Altamura Man. In 1993, the Altamura Man was discovered in Italy's La Malunga cave. Initially, the identity and significance of the discovery were unclear, but it was soon determined that this was a well-preserved Neanderthal skeleton, now known as the Altamura Man. This Neanderthal had remained undisturbed for over 170,000 years, embedded within the cave walls. Due to the fragile nature of the skull, researchers decided to leave it in place to avoid damage. A major breakthrough came when scientists managed to extract DNA from his right shoulder blade. While the Altamura Man shares typical Neanderthal traits, he also displays unique features, such as unusually large brow ridges, making him closer and more similar to us. Claw junction. I'm no expert, but if I found something as chilling as this peeking from behind a teeny tiny hole in the ground, I wouldn't want to get up close, even if it turned out to be an arthropod. But it seems this guy was really eager to capture this creepy crawly, so he really shoved the camera up close. Now, look at those appendages. It looks like this critter's equipped with some nasty claws. Ever since the video went viral, people have been fighting over what it is. Some say it's a giant spider, others say it's a crab. Well, let me know what you think. Open discussion. A couple of years ago, someone tipped the police about a man secretly keeping the mummified remains of an alien. Once they apprehended the unnamed man, they uncovered this mummy, which is oddly humanoid. Despite its looks, testing revealed that whatever this thing was certainly didn't belong to the human race. Weirdly enough, further research was quickly called off, and the mummy disappeared, fueling suspicion. Some believe the mummy belonged to a superior alien race that may have evolved into modern humans. Others think the mummy is actually a hybrid of a human and alien, but too bad we don't have much information.